Mental endurance is the new power. What if the most dangerous man in the room isn't the strongest, but the calmest under pressure? Not the loudest, not the most reactive, but the one who stays still when everyone else collapses. We're not talking about surviving. We're talking about domination, through control, through clarity, through mental endurance, because that's what separated Roman warriors from the rest. They didn't just fight battles, they endured everything around the battle. Cold nights without fire, betrayal from within, starvation, fear, death. And they did it with stillness in their eyes. Let me tell you what that looks like. A Roman soldier is bleeding, his legs been cut open. His comrades lie dead beside him. The enemy's approaching, and he's surrounded. But he doesn't scream. He doesn't cry for help. He grips his sword. He locks into the moment, and he holds the line. Not because he isn't afraid, but because he's trained his mind to stand where others collapse. That is mental endurance. And it's not just for war, it's for life. The Stoic art of endurance. Endurance isn't pain tolerance, it's strategic control over your impulses. It's not about how much you can suffer, it's about what you choose to do while suffering. And no one understood that better than Marcus Aurelius. Picture this: the Roman Empire is at war. Barbarian tribes press in from the north. The political system is cracking. His wife has died. His health is fading, and he's sleeping not in a palace, but in a cold military tent miles from safety. It's the middle of the night. Everyone else is asleep, exhausted, frozen, broken. But Marcus is awake, not to cry, not to complain. He's writing. And what he's writing is Meditations, a book that would outlive emperors, kings, even Rome itself. But here's what most people miss. It wasn't meant to be a book. It was a journal, a private ritual to sharpen his mind against betrayal, grief, fear, and isolation. He didn't write to feel better. He wrote to train better. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. That's the Stoic formula. Not numbness, not denial, but relentless mental preparation. Because in a world obsessed with speed and reaction, the ability to pause, endure, and think under pressure is what separates the average from the unshakable. And that's exactly what we're going to build in this video. Not motivation, not hype, but mental endurance like a Roman warrior, steel under fire, strategy in silence, and the kind of self-control no one sees coming. 1. Train. Discomfort. Like a ritual. Pain is a daily drill. Most people talk about being mentally tough like it's something you just decide to become, as if reading a few quotes or watching a motivational video somehow makes you resilient. But real mental endurance, it's not a mindset you think, it's a habit you build through discomfort, repetition, and chosen suffering. The Roman Stoics understood this deeply. Seneca, one of the wealthiest men of his time, didn't spend his days in silk robes drinking wine. No, he intentionally lived below his means. He fasted, slept on hard floors, walked through town in worn-out clothes. He would ask himself, while eating the most basic food, "Is this the condition I feared?" He was rehearsing suffering before suffering found him, not because he liked pain, but because he refused to be ruled by comfort. And here's the brutal truth. Comfort is addictive, and what feels good now often makes you soft later. When you live too far from discomfort, the smallest inconvenience becomes a crisis. So ask yourself, when was the last time you chose to be uncomfortable on purpose? Not because life forced you to, but because you wanted to build the muscle of endurance. That's the shift. Turn discomfort into a daily drill, not punishment, preparation. Wake up earlier than you need to, not to impress anyone, but to meet yourself before the world starts pulling at you. Take cold showers, not for a trend, but to show your nervous system that you're in charge. Work out in silence. No music, no hype, just effort and breath. Delay gratification, not because you have to, but because you can. Each time you lean into discomfort, you're training your body to obey and your mind to lead. You're hardening your focus. And more importantly, you're rehearsing chaos in controlled conditions, so when the real chaos hits, you don't flinch, because you've been here before. Now that we've laid this foundation, let's take it one step further. Because the real test of mental endurance isn't how much pain you can take, it's how well you can pause when every part of you wants to react. 2. Master the pause, delay your reaction, regain your power. If discomfort is your first weapon, the pause is your shield. Because no matter how strong or disciplined you are, there will be moments when something punches you straight in the gut. An insult, a betrayal, a loss, a challenge you didn't see coming. And in that split second, you have two choices: react out of instinct or pause with intention. That pause, it's not weakness, it's control under fire. And that's where real dominance lives. The Stoics were obsessed with this idea, not because they were afraid of emotion, but because they refused to be controlled by it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you. Things have no hold on the soul. They stand there unmoving. Disturbance comes only from within." He was a general, an emperor, a man surrounded by chaos, and yet he practiced a kind of inner stillness that most people today would mistake for detachment. It wasn't. It was preparedness. Let me give you a modern picture. You walk into a meeting. Someone undermines you in front of the room. You feel the fire rise in your chest. Anger, pride, embarrassment. The average person bites back, defends, reacts. The Stoic pauses, not because they're soft, but because they're calculating the impact of their next move. And 9 times out of 10, the one who pauses owns the room. That's the core. Delayed reaction equals strategic advantage. Here's how you build it. Start micro. Every time something irritates you, traffic, criticism, delays, practice the 3-second rule. Inhale. Don't speak. Let the emotion rise and then fade. Only then decide what action is worth taking. Do this enough, and your nervous system starts obeying you instead of ambushing you. Because here's the truth. The most reactive person in the room is always the weakest, the calmest one. He's already won the war before anyone throws a punch. Now, once you've trained yourself to pause, it's time to do something even more dangerous. Turn all that raw emotion into fuel. 3. Redirect the fire. Transmute emotion into cold focus. Let's be honest, you're going to feel it. The betrayal, the disrespect, the setback. It'll hit you like a wave, burning, loud, consuming. And the first instinct, react, lash out, collapse, explain, let the fire take over. But a Stoic doesn't extinguish the fire. He redirects it, because emotion is energy, and energy is power if you know where to aim it. Marcus Aurelius, during one of his military campaigns, wrote, "When jarred unavoidably by circumstance, return at once to yourself and don't lose the rhythm more than you must." He was surrounded by death, betrayal, and fatigue, yet his focus remained intact. Not because he was numb, but because he knew how to convert pain into presence. Let me show you what that looks like in real time. Imagine, you just got humiliated in front of a crowd, your pride's been cut open, you could yell, storm out, spiral, or you pause, you feel it, and then you turn it. That pain becomes a workout at midnight. That rage becomes a journal entry that leads to a business plan. That humiliation becomes a vow to never be unprepared again. This is emotional transmutation, and it's the most underused weapon in modern mental warfare. But you can't fake it. You can't think positive and hope the storm passes. You use the storm. Here's the tactic. Every time a strong emotion hits, don't label it good or bad. Just ask one question. Where does this want to go? If it wants to explode, compress it. If it wants to spiral, structure it. If it wants to control you, command it first. Because fire, on its own, destroys. But fire in a furnace, it builds cities, melts steel, powers empires, and that's the shift. You don't suppress your emotion, you forge with it. Now that you've learned to redirect emotion, it's time to upgrade your relationship with time itself. Because the next step isn't reaction, it's patience. And in the world of Stoic warriors, he who waits controls the field. 4. Delay, gratification, the warrior's relationship with time. Here's a brutal truth most people will never accept. If you can't wait, you can't win. And that's not just philosophy, that's war strategy. Roman generals didn't win by rushing the enemy. They won by waiting for the enemy to rush first. Patience wasn't passivity, it was positioning. It was the invisible advantage behind every real power move. In the world we live in now, where everything is built for instant gratification, delaying reward is a form of rebellion. But more than that, it's domination. Because when you can say no to what everyone else says yes to, you prove something rare, that your impulses don't own you. That pleasure doesn't guide you. That time bends around your purpose, not the other way around. Let's go back to the Stoics. Seneca once wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." And one of the fastest ways we waste time, chasing short-term highs that sabotage long-term strength. Food, comfort, validation, revenge, all of it. Quick hits that weaken the mental core. Now imagine this. You're offered two paths. One gives you instant applause, a spotlight today, but no foundation tomorrow. The other is silent, demanding, invisible. But 5 years from now, it builds a legacy that outlives you. Which one do you choose? That's the test. And that's where the warrior mindset begins. It asks, can I want something deeply and still wait for the right moment to act? That's where power lives. And here's how you train it. Start by saying no to things you know are designed to hook your nervous system. The dopamine loops, the instant rewards. Don't scroll when you're bored. Sit in it. Don't reply just to get the last word. Pause instead. Don't reward yourself until the mission is complete. Earn your victory. Don't negotiate it. Delaying gratification doesn't mean you suffer forever. It means you own what others beg for. Because while they celebrate scraps, you're building something that lasts. And when it finally arrives, you don't just enjoy it, you command it because you didn't chase it. Now, once you've trained to move slow when the world moves fast, it's time to push yourself in the other direction, facing hardship, not when it shows up, but before it does. That's where we go next, into the warrior's most feared advantage, voluntary suffering. 5. Use voluntary hardship, manufacture controlled chaos. Most people only train when things go wrong. The Stoic, he trains before the storm hits. That's the difference. He doesn't wait for life to test him. He builds his own tests. He manufactures hardship. on purpose, not to suffer, but to sharpen, because the warrior who chooses discomfort while others chase comfort is already 3 steps ahead, before the fight even starts. Epictetus said it plainly: "Don't hope that events will turn out the way you want. Welcome events in whichever way they happen." But that mindset doesn't come from comfort. It comes from simulation, repetition, ritualized pain. Here's what that looked like in ancient Rome. A soldier would march miles in full armor under the summer sun, not because he had to, but because he might have to. He'd go days with minimal food, minimal sleep, not because it was noble, but because someday it would be necessary. Voluntary hardship builds psychological immunity. It teaches your mind not to flinch when life pulls the rug. So what does this look like today? Wake up earlier than needed, not for hustle culture, but to own the start of your day. Fast 24 hours, not to lose weight, but to prove hunger won't own you. Turn off your phone for a full weekend, not as a trend, but as control over your inputs. Practice saying no to things you want, just to prove you can, because each of these micro-acts is a drill for a future breakdown. You're preparing your mind to stay calm when others unravel, to move forward when the crowd freezes. This is the move most people never make. They wait for pain. The Stoic rehearses it. And when real suffering comes, because it always does, he doesn't beg for mercy. He meets it like an old friend. But what separates a Stoic warrior from a mere survivor is not just what he can endure. It's how he makes sense of it all. So next, we step into the final phase, journaling like a general, building a mental fortress that nothing and no one can breach. 6. Build a mental fortress. Journal like a general. Let me ask you this. If your mind is the battlefield, where are your defenses? Because you can train your body, you can control your habits, you can delay gratification, embrace pain, and stay silent under fire. But if your thoughts remain chaotic, you'll still break, quietly, internally, invisibly. That's why the final piece of true mental endurance isn't about doing more. It's about going deeper. It's about building a mental fortress, one page at a time. Marcus Aurelius did this better than anyone. He didn't write meditations to publish it. He wrote it to survive, not physically, but psychologically. He used words to organize the storm inside his head, to remind himself of who he was, what he stood for, and what couldn't touch him. And he did it, every single night, in silence, in solitude, like a general reviewing the day's battles, wins, losses, and next moves. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Marcus Aurelius. So, what's your soul stained with lately? Resentment, regret, noise, distraction. Journaling isn't about productivity, it's about command. It's not therapy, it's strategy. Your journal isn't a diary, it's your battlefield map. Here's how you start. Every evening answer 3 things. 1. What challenged me today? Don't dramatize, just name it. 2. How did I respond? Was it instinct, emotion, or strategy? 3. What would the strongest version of me have done differently? Now you're not just reflecting, you're refining, you're editing the soldier, not just surviving the day. And over time, that fortress gets thicker. Your mind doesn't flinch as easily. Your emotions don't control the map. You become dangerous, not because you speak louder, but because you think sharper. Because while others collapse under chaos, you've mapped your own storm systems. You know where the cracks are, and you reinforce them daily. This is the real difference between temporary strength and stoic endurance. And now, as we bring everything together, there's only one thing left to ask. Will you train your mind like a Roman soldier, or wait for life to break it for you? Let's wrap this up, because everything you've learned so far only matters if you're ready to apply it. The silent strength that never breaks mental endurance isn't about gritting your teeth until the pain passes. It's not about pretending you feel nothing. It's about something far more dangerous, commanding yourself when everything around you is falling apart. You've seen the 6 disciplines. They're not trendy, they're not glamorous, they're quiet, deliberate, unshakable, and that's what makes them lethal. Because when you start choosing discomfort, when you train silence over reaction, when you redirect your emotion, delay pleasure, rehearse hardship, and command your mind every single night, you stop being the one the world knocks down and start becoming the one it can't move. And here's the part no one tells you. No one will clap for you. Not when you fast. Not when you walk away. Not when you journal instead of complain. But one day, they'll feel it in your presence. They won't know what changed. They'll just know they can't shake you. That's mental endurance. That's Stoic warfare. That's the art of becoming untouchable without saying a word. So now ask yourself, which of these 6 disciplines have you avoided? And which one are you ready to master first? Drop it in the comments. Don't explain it. Claim it. If this hit something deep, like it, share it, subscribe. Not for views, but because every week we go deeper into building the kind of inner system that empires can't destroy. And if you're ready to turn endurance into full-spectrum dominance, click the next video. We're going inside Marcus Aurelius's real inner code, the exact Stoic mechanics he used to rule chaos while keeping his soul intact. This is no longer about surviving. It's about leading, strategizing, enduring with intent. Click, watch, advance.